All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Everyday English Pod. I think we've all been there, that feeling in your stomach, like those flip-flops when you even think about having to speak in front of other people.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially, I think, when you're speaking or learning American English, you're trying to nail those pronunciations and everything,
Yes.
whether it's a work presentation or just sharing your ideas in a group, even just trying to, make yourself understood clearly.
Absolutely.
That fear, it can really, stop you in your tracks.
It's a huge obstacle for so many people, and it's something we really wanted to, dedicate some time to today.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because, it might feel like some people are just naturally gifted, they just get up there and they're amazing.
Right.
But really, public speaking, it's a skill, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a skill that can be learned and improved with practice. It's like any other skill.
Exactly.
The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Exactly. And so today, really, the main goal is to give you guys, listening some concrete, actionable steps.
Yeah.
Things you can start using right away to make speaking in front of people just feel less scary,
For sure.
And maybe even, dare I say, enjoyable.
Yeah. I think we can get there.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin? How do we start to kind of unpack this fear?
Well, I think the first thing is to really understand it.
Okay.
To acknowledge the fear itself, right? Where does this anxiety come from?
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, stems from worrying about what other people are thinking of us.
Oh, for sure.
When we're up there talking, maybe we're focusing on our pronunciation.
Right, yeah.
Our grammar, especially when we're talking about American English.
Oh, yeah.
Or just how we're coming across in general.
Right.
And, it can feel like all eyes are on you.
Oh, totally. It's intense.
Yeah, it can be super intense. But realizing that this kind of fear is normal is actually incredibly important.
Okay, good.
Research has actually shown that a large percentage of people actually experience anxiety related to public speaking.
Really? I always feel like I'm the only one, sweating it out up there.
You are not alone. Trust me.
Okay, good.
So you're in good company if you feel this way.
Okay, that is reassuring.
Yeah, and, acknowledging this fear is the first step in actually taking away some of its power.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
When you recognize it, when you can actually name it as something that so many people experience,
Right.
it becomes less of a personal failing and more of just a hurdle to overcome.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's normal, we've named it, and we're going to take away its power.
Exactly.
What's next?
So next, I think it can be really helpful to reframe how we see our audience.
Okay.
A lot of the fear, right, comes from this underlying belief that the people listening are going to be critical and judgmental.
Yeah.
But in most situations, whether it's a learning environment or a professional one, the audience is generally supportive.
Okay.
They're there.
Yeah.
Because they want to listen.
Yeah.
They want to learn something. They want to get something valuable from what you have to say.
Yeah, you're right. I guess we kind of project our own worries onto them sometimes.
Exactly. So if you can make an effort to think of the audience as being on your side, almost like you're talking to friends,
Okay.
it can really help to calm those nerves.
Okay.
It changes the dynamic,
Yeah. Yeah.
from this potentially intimidating situation to a more welcoming one.
So friendly faces, not like a tough crowd.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, so we've acknowledged the fear. We're seeing the audience differently.
Yes.
What are some practical things that we can start doing to prepare?
Yeah. This is where the action starts.
Okay, good.
One simple, but really surprisingly effective technique is to practice speaking to yourself in front of a mirror.
Oh, okay.
I know it sounds a little silly,
Yeah.
but this gives you a chance to get more comfortable with the physical act of speaking.
Right.
You see your facial expressions, your body language,
Yeah.
without the added pressure of other people watching.
Right. Okay.
And it might seem small, but it could really build up a surprising amount of self-awareness and confidence over time.
Yeah, I can see that. You get used to seeing yourself talking.
Exactly.
It's different from just thinking the words in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another important part of preparation is to really focus on your message,
Okay.
the value that you're delivering to your listeners,
Right.
rather than getting caught up in your own, self-consciousness, right?
Yeah.
When you're genuinely invested in what you're saying,
Uh-huh.
and you know that it has something worthwhile to offer, you're less likely to be so focused on how you look and sound.
Right.
Your attention just naturally shifts outward.
That makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like if you're really passionate about something, you're less nervous to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And along with that, focusing on your message,
Yeah.
try to visualize a successful speaking experience. Before you even start,
Yeah.
picture yourself like the audience is engaged, they're nodding, they're smiling, maybe even applauding.
Okay.
This kind of mental rehearsal can significantly reduce your anxiety.
Really?
Yeah, it helps you feel more prepared, more in control.
So it's like a mental run-through kind of...
Precisely.
Okay.
And, even with the best preparation, things can still happen.
Oh, yeah.
You might stumble over a word, forget what you wanted to say.
Right.
It's so important to accept that those little hiccups are normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're part of the learning process.
Okay.
Instead of fearing them, try to see them as opportunities for growth.
Okay.
It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress.
So don't beat yourself up.
Exactly.
But they mess up a little bit.
Exactly. And, in terms of concrete steps for preparation, I think writing down your main points and creating a really clear outline is incredibly valuable.
Okay, yeah.
A well-structured speech, helps you to stay focused, prevents you from rambling.
Right.
And it ultimately reduces anxiety because you have a clear roadmap to follow.
Yeah, that feeling of knowing where you're going must be a big help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once you have that outline, practice speaking it out loud.
Okay.
Do it repeatedly.
Okay.
The more you rehearse, the more comfortable and familiar you'll become with the material and how it flows.
Okay, so practicing out loud is key. What about taking it a step further?
Recording yourself.
Oh, okay.
This is a fantastic technique.
Yeah.
It gives you a way to actually objectively hear how you sound,
Right.
your tone of voice, your speaking pace, how clear your pronunciation is.
Right.
And it helps you identify any areas where you might want to improve
Yeah.
or where you sound less confident.
Ooh, that could be eye-opening. Or maybe a little scary to watch at first.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's an incredibly valuable tool. And, once you get a little more comfortable recording yourself, you can try practicing in front of someone you trust.
Okay.
A friend, family member, get their feedback.
Right.
Have a little test run with a friendly audience.
It's like a test run. Okay, I like that.
Exactly. And timing yourself when you practice is important too.
Okay.
Knowing approximately how long your speech is going to take can give you a better sense of control.
Right. Right.
It can help you to avoid rushing or running out of things to say.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be scrambling at the end or feel like you have to speed through everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And something that I think is often overlooked, but incredibly powerful for managing that pre-speech anxiety.
Yeah.
Deep breathing.
Okay.
Those simple, slow, deep breathing exercises you do right before you start speaking.
Okay.
They can calm your mind, regulate your heart rate, and help you gain better control over your voice.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's actually a physiological reason for this. When you take these slow, deep breaths, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system.
Right.
Which counteracts that whole fight or flight response.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it's actually calming your heart rate.
So it's like a literal calming effect.
Exactly. It's a really quick and easy way to keep those nerves in check.
Okay. Deep breaths. Noted. So we prepped. We've practiced.
Yes.
How do we start actually gaining real world experience,
Yeah.
building up that confidence when we're actually in front of people?
It's all about gradual exposure.
Okay.
Start with practicing in low pressure situations.
Okay.
Like reading stories to friends.
Yeah.
Or participating in small study groups
Okay.
where you feel comfortable sharing your thoughts.
Right.
These are all great ways to kind of gently step into speaking in front of others.
Okay, so it's a step-by-step approach.
Exactly. Another approach is to volunteer to speak in more informal settings where the stakes are low,
Okay.
like at a family gathering.
Right.
Or maybe a small meetup group with people who share similar hobbies.
Right, where it's less pressure, more just getting comfortable.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, you can even practice by introducing yourself to new people and just engaging in short conversations.
Okay.
The more you speak, the easier and more natural it becomes.
So it's like anything. The more you do it, the
Absolutely.
more comfortable you get.
Exactly. And remember, it's normal to feel nervous.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, a little bit of nervousness can be a good thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a sign that you care.
Okay.
The key is to learn to channel that nervous energy
Okay.
into enthusiasm for your topic.
Oh, okay. So turn those butterflies into motivation.
Exactly.
Okay.
And as you gain more experience, you can try recording yourself, like short videos on your phone, talking about something you're really passionate about.
Okay.
And you can watch these back and actually see your growth and progress.
Okay.
which can be a huge boost to your confidence.
Yeah, that like visual evidence of like, oh, wow, I've gotten better must be really encouraging.
Absolutely. And, even taking small steps every day,
Okay.
a little practice here, a brief interaction there,
Yeah.
those add up.
Okay.
Consistency is key.
Small steps, consistent effort. All right, so we've talked about kind of prepping, practicing.
Right.
Let's talk about the mental game.
Yeah.
Like when you're actually standing up there in front of the audience.
Okay, yeah. This is where mindset is crucial.
Okay.
And it's good to remind yourself
Okay.
that in most cases, the people in the audience are hoping you'll succeed.
Right.
They want to hear what you have to say. They want to have a positive experience.
It's easy to forget that when you're feeling all like,
vulnerable.
vulnerable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So when you start speaking, make an effort to actually look for friendly, encouraging faces in the audience
Okay.
and focus your gaze on them. Yeah. This can create a sense of connection and make the whole experience feel less isolating.
Like you're not alone up there.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, it's also important not to overanalyze the reactions of individual people.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like if someone's looking distracted or looking at their phone, it could be for a number of reasons
Right. Right.
that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of getting caught up in that, just focus on delivering your message in a clear and engaging way.
You can drive yourself crazy trying to read everyone's minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you happen to forget a line
Yeah.
or stumble over your words,
Something's
don't panic.
okay.
You take a pause, take a breath,
Right.
and then continue.
Right.
The audience understands
Yeah.
these things happen,
Okay.
and they'll likely admire your ability to, stay calm and keep going.
Grace under pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you make a small mistake, don't be afraid to use a little humor to lighten the mood.
Oh. Yeah.
A little self-deprecating comment can show that you're relaxed.
Yeah.
And it makes the audience feel more comfortable too.
Right. A little bit of laughter can break the tension.
Exactly.
Right.
And never forget the power of eye contact.
Okay.
Making eye contact with different people throughout your speech is so important.
Okay.
For building a connection with your audience,
Right.
it shows that you're confident, you're engaged,
Okay.
and you're speaking directly to them,
Yeah.
not just reciting information.
Right. It's more like a conversation, even if it's a formal presentation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have the opportunity, try to start with a story,
Oh, okay.
a compelling story,
Yeah.
or a really relatable example.
Okay.
This not only grabs attention, but also helps you ease into the topic.
Okay. So start with something engaging, something relatable.
Exactly.
Okay. Makes sense. What about our physical presence, our body language?
Yes.
How does that play into overcoming fear and projecting confidence?
Body language speaks volumes. So standing up straight, shoulders back, using your hands naturally to emphasize points.
Yeah.
This projects confidence,
Okay.
even if you're not feeling it on the inside.
Right.
It's interesting, actually,
Yeah.
because your posture can actually influence how you feel.
Oh, wow. So it's like an upward spiral.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't underestimate the power of a smile.
Okay.
A smile makes you feel more relaxed,
Yeah.
signals warmth and approachability,
Okay.
makes the audience more receptive to your message.
Yeah. A little bit of warmth goes a long way.
It does. And on the other hand, you want to try to avoid closed off body language.
Right.
Like
Right.
crossing your arms, fidgeting.
Right. Right.
Those kinds of things signal nervousness.
So open and engaged, not closed off.
Exactly. And, a little bit of movement can be helpful too.
Okay.
Walking a few steps, shifting your weight,
Right.
just to help you release some of that nervous energy.
Right. So purposeful movement, not just pacing nervously.
Exactly. And practicing, standing confidently in front of the mirror
Okay.
can help you become more aware of your body language
Right. Yeah.
and remind yourself to maintain a good posture.
So it's like rehearsing the physical as well as the words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as we think about continuous improvement,
Yeah.
it's so important to remember that every opportunity you have, regardless of how you think it went,
Yeah.
is a learning experience.
Right.
Even if it wasn't perfect, acknowledge the progress you've made.
Okay.
Celebrate those small wins.
Celebrate the wins.
Exactly. Public speaking gets easier with time and with practice.
Right.
Trust in your ability to improve.
Okay.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Building confidence takes time.
It's like any skill, right? The more you do it, the stronger it gets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And continue to visualize yourself succeeding.
Okay.
Picture yourself feeling calm, confident,
Okay.
engaging your audience. This positive mental imagery can really make it easier to believe in yourself when you're actually in that situation.
Yeah, like reinforcing that positive image of yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't forget positive self-talk.
Okay.
Remind yourself,
Yeah.
I've got this. I'm prepared.
Right, right.
These affirmations can help shift your mindset.
Oh, interesting. So it's like you're retraining your inner voice.
Exactly.
Okay.
And before you go on, take those few focused breaths.
Okay.
The slow, deep breaths.
Right.
Center yourself, calm the nerves,
Okay.
and reframe those feelings of nervousness
Yeah.
as excitement.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because it's the same physiological response.
Right, right.
But you can interpret it in different ways.
Okay.
It's just a matter of perspective.
So nervous energy can be channeled into enthusiastic delivery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, preparation is the bedrock of confidence.
Okay.
The more prepared you are,
Yeah.
the less likely you are to feel anxious. Knowing your stuff gives you that foundation.
Okay. So preparation, positive mindset, and consistent practice.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk a little bit about how to structure the speech itself.
Okay. Yeah.
How can a good structure help us overcome that fear of public speaking?
Structure makes it manageable.
Okay.
You want to start with a clear and engaging opening.
Okay.
That introduces your main point.
Okay.
Then have a few key points in the middle,
Okay.
and then finish with a memorable conclusion.
Okay, so like a classic beginning, middle, and end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having this structure helps you stay on track.
Right.
It prevents you from rambling.
Right.
And it gives you a sense of control, which helps reduce anxiety.
Right, so you know where you're going.
Exactly. A well-defined structure also allows you to, pause and collect your thoughts if you need to.
Okay.
Because you know those key points, it's easy to pick back up.
So it's like you have a mental safety net.
Exactly. And I would also recommend breaking down your speech into smaller chunks when you're preparing.
Yeah.
It feels less overwhelming to just focus on one idea at a time.
Right, those bite-sized pieces
Specifically.
make it less scary. Okay.
And don't be afraid to pause
Okay.
between points.
Okay.
It gives your audience time to absorb information.
Right.
And it gives you a chance to take a breath.
Right. Okay.
And it can actually add emphasis to your points.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
It makes you sound more thoughtful and controlled.
So silence can be a powerful tool.
It can be.
Yeah. Okay.
And remember, there's no need to rush.
Okay.
Speak at a comfortable pace.
Right.
It gives you time to think about your wording.
Okay.
It conveys confidence.
Right.
And it helps your audience to understand you.
So clarity and confidence go hand in hand.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one final tip for structure is to use transitions
Okay.
between your main points.
Okay.
Simple phrases like next, for example.
Right.
These help your speech flow and signal to the listener where you're going.
So like smooth transitions,
That's
keep
right.
the audience engaged, keep them following along. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk a little bit about the personal touch,
Okay.
adding in stories, maybe a little bit of emotion.
Yes.
How can that help us connect with the audience and build our own confidence as speakers?
I love that you brought this up.
Yeah.
Personal stories are incredibly powerful
Okay.
in public speaking.
Okay.
They allow the audience to see your human side.
Yeah.
And they make your message so much more relatable.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
If you can connect with the speaker on a personal level, it makes you pay more attention.
Exactly. And they're more likely to remember your points.
Okay.
And, stories also have this way of making complex topics easier to understand.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of just presenting abstract facts,
Right.
try illustrating your points with examples from your own experience.
Okay. Yeah.
It makes the material more interesting, more memorable, and it boosts your confidence because it's something that you know.
Right. Yeah. It feels less like you're just reciting information.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because they're rooted in your own experience, you don't have to worry as much about remembering every little detail.
Right.
Yeah. It just feels authentic and natural.
Right. It takes the pressure off of trying to be perfect.
Exactly. And, don't be afraid to add a little emotion
Okay.
to your stories.
Right.
If it made you laugh, surprised you, or taught you something,
Yeah.
share that feeling with your audience.
Okay.
Emotions create connection.
People connect with emotion for sure.
They do.
Yeah.
And remember, stories don't have to be long and elaborate.
Okay.
Even a short, simple anecdote can have a really big impact.
Okay.
The goal is to bring your topic to life,
Right. Okay.
make it resonate
Okay.
with your audience.
So make the abstract more concrete.
Exactly. And, use your stories strategically to emphasize your main points. For example, if you're talking about teamwork, share a time when collaboration made a real difference in your life.
Right. Okay. Right.
So illustrate the point with a story.
Exactly.
It makes it stick in people's minds.
Absolutely. So let's talk about connection
Okay.
with the audience and how to handle questions.
Oh, yeah. Questions.
Which can be really nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
especially for a lot of speakers.
Okay.
You know, maintaining eye contact is absolutely essential
Okay.
for connecting.
Yep.
When you look at people, it conveys confidence.
Right.
Lets them know you're talking directly to them.
Okay.
Make an effort to make eye contact with different people throughout your speech.
So it's like they feel seen, they feel acknowledged.
Exactly. And your body language plays a huge role in reinforcing the words you're saying
Okay.
and in building trust.
Okay.
You know, standing tall with an open and relaxed posture
Right.
projects confidence.
Yeah.
You want to avoid those closed-off postures.
Right. Like crossing your arms, slouching.
Yeah.
Those can make you look nervous.
So your physical presence should support your message.
Precisely. And, hand gestures
Yeah.
can make your presentation more dynamic and interesting.
Right.
Just keep them natural.
Okay, so purposeful gestures, not just random movements.
Exactly. And, a smile,
Yeah.
it can go a long way.
Right.
It makes you look approachable and friendly.
Yeah.
And it helps you relax,
Oh, okay.
which creates a more positive tone for the whole interaction.
Yeah, it's like contagious in a good way.
It is.
Mhm.
And, movement is good too.
Okay.
But avoid pacing back and forth.
Right, right.
Move with purpose.
Purposeful movement.
Exactly. And then pauses.
Yeah.
Pausing is an incredibly powerful tool.
Okay.
It gives the audience time to absorb what you've said.
Right.
It lets you gather your thoughts.
Right.
And it can add emphasis to your point.
Silence is an empty space. It can be really powerful.
It can be.
Okay. Now, when it comes to handling questions,
Yes.
which, like we said, can be scary.
Absolutely.
Start by really listening to each question.
Yeah.
Maintain eye contact.
Uh-huh.
And then take a pause before answering.
Okay, yes.
This ensures that you've understood.
Right.
And it makes you look more thoughtful and composed.
Exactly. And if you don't know the answer,
Yeah.
it's okay to admit that.
Right.
You could say, that's a great question. I'll need to look into that further.
Right.
Be honest.
Right.
It builds credibility.